Hi friends, how's your career? Talking with French people. The video is titled Shapiro, Peterson, Harris, False Prophets. False prophets, every last one. Peterson frequently pisses me off, Jordan Peterson. I was watching one of his videos. We got clickbaited, I guess, by the title of it. It sounded interesting. It was why women get tired of their partners. Chomsky is not a good TI user. Okay, he had one good idea about medium, message, and so forth. And that was Marshall McLuhan. He had one good idea about grammar being implicit in human beings. And after that, he directed attention to politics, went completely off the rails. Like, he likes to put things side by side and thinks that's an argument. But look, the New York Times receives all this money from these advertisers. And yet they're writing stories about things that are relevant to those advertisers. And so what's the actual mechanism by which information flow is being controlled by some centralized force or something? He had no answers. No more answers than anybody else because it's bullshit. I will concede something important. I am tired. I am tired. Like I've flyered all the cars in the parking lot. Yes, I absolutely would. Absolutely. That's a no-brainer, Jake Hurwitz. No-brainer. Full pardon for Snowden. He did nothing that any God-fearing American ought to have done, you know? It's like the notion that these purported leaders somehow know better or qualified to access information, and that the country's better served by allowing these, purported experts to railroad through their bullshit only results in stuff like COVID, I mean, I didn't watch the thing. There's no reason to have a debate on truth. I've already explained truth in full. I mean, it's insane to have a debate on truth. Truth is a status for statements, and there's three legs of a truth testing paradigm. One, and it depends on the kind of statement, right? One is confirmation ability, confirmability in the physical world. That assumes, of course, you're making descriptive statements, The second consideration is that people are using the words the same way. And the third consideration is that there's a sense that each of those words is like a, what do you call it, a truth bearer or truth carrier. That's an old model, right? Then there's the emergent theory of truth. There's no theory of truth at all. Intellectual dark web my ass. That might be a better title. You're right. Let me fix it. That was a shitty bowl. That bowl really tasted weird. Like, what did Rachel pack in there? For God's sakes. Again, I'm pimping my new song. Okay, so if you haven't listened to my new song, please listen to it. I'll put the here. My God, dark web, my ass. There's the dark web inside of my ass. Edit. Yeah, so my point is all these people are weak. They're all weak. Why couldn't they be saved? Oh, because I had the word ass in the title? Fine. I'll put $sign. Will that work? But it's why. But it's why wouldn't it work? But it's why. Well, regardless. The point is this. Sorry, Jordan Peterson. I'm so thoroughly unimpressed with everything you say. You're so wrong about everything you say. Like, his explanation for women falling out of love in relationships or something. It's, he didn't say anything worthwhile, as far as I could tell. He was just talking out his ass about evolution and stuff. What in the world does evolution have to do with understanding people in the status quo? $4K cam, okay. Well, okay, I don't know what the fuck Rachel packed in this bowl, but that has got to be uncleaned floor weed with God knows what on it. Absolutely awful. Another kind of NE-ish test or NI test or something that I was thinking of earlier. It would be a fun one. Would be you go, okay, what's the combination word between a parrot and a seagull? There's only one possible correct answer to that, right? It's a paragall. It's not a sea parrot. It's not a peagull. Okay, peagull might work. Yeah, actually, peagull's probably better. Okay, well, what about this combination? Combination between a street sweeper and a ficus. A Stichus fever? Stichus fever might be the right answer for that one. I've got my Stichus fever. I cut Rachel's hair tonight. That was harder than it looks. It's a lot harder than it looks to cut someone's hair. If you want to be my lover, you've got to get with my friends. Basically, if you want to have sex with me, you have to have sex with everybody I know first. Hi, Octavio. You know what they say, Octavio? Cabbage is the new cribbage. That's the word on the street. Probably, but Rachel has my phone. She dropped her phone in the toilet the other day, and her phone actually is fine, but she wasn't sure if it was fine because she needed to get a new cord anyway. Yeah, Peterson is always going down on evolution and just really sopping it up, just really wallowing in its juices and its crotch sweat. Jordan Peterson wallows in the crotch sweat of evolution. 1 p.m. or 7 p.m. tomorrow, my time. Let's do 7. What do you get when you combine a rhino and an ostrich? A rhystrich or an astrino? I think an astrino. Do 7 o'clock this evening. Okay, Octavia? It's in my calendar. No, officially, I'll put it in there. Which is my mental calendar. Calander. Okay, today is May 6th. And at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., Octavia. All right, it's in my official Google Calendar. It guarantees it'll never, ever, ever be forgotten again for as long as I live. 7 p.m. it is. Rhystrich or astrino? Or potentially rhinostrich. Could be. So, Jordan Peterson, the reason women sometimes fall out of love with men or something like that, whatever they're saying, is, first of all, they're probably with the wrong type of person. That's why. It's very straightforward. Because they were never with the right person in the first place. But let's say that's not the problem, that the woman picked wisely, but she's nevertheless getting restless. Well, probably she's unipolar, like my ESFJ second wife. Completely ignored the actual reality of things and left me, even though there was certainly nobody better for her out there. How do you type the said members of the IDW? Jordan Peterson is an ENTJ. Sam Harris is an INFJ. And who's the other one I put up there? Shapiro. ESTJ, probably. Good debater. but not that good. Overrated for sure. What do you mean? Weak. So weak. Clayton McCorrick. Evolutionist. Well, look. It's worth worth noting that obviously my second wife could have proved me wrong about that. Could have, in fact, said, no, there are better people out there for me, Eric. But she'd have been wrong, and that, it's not like I'm the greatest human being in the world or anything. It is like I'm an excellent relationship partner, and those are very rare. I'm a rock. She may end up, she could prove me wrong in the sense of finding somebody that she's more happy with, or simply having decided that being single is happier for her. Um, I, I, I didn't understand the need for her to leave at the end of that marriage. Granted, the kid that we raised together was growing up, and so it was time for her to go, and that's fine. But it's an example of bipolar. My issue with evolution is way more basic than that. Nobody's actually successfully explained to me how a self-replicating genome that negatively extinguishes deviance from the genetic mean evolves into a different genome. Even though we've never seen it, makes no sense. I have no opinion about creationism at all. I'm not advocating any counter advocacy. My problem with evolution is it does an incredibly shitty, completely inadequate job of attaining what it says it attains, which is to say, an actual explanation for something. Explains nothing. It falsifies. Based on its original mechanism, it's long since massively falsified. Theories are supposed to make predictions, and we're supposed to test them, and they either bear water or they don't. None of evolution's tests they've all falsified evolution. There's so many idiot TE people right now arguing COVID shit. Well, we got it. You're missing the frame here. Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson both get the frame wrong. Shapiro is a groupist, so he's the dumbest of the lot. Sam Harris is the one I have the most respect for. But he's slow compared to me. Jordan Peterson does not understand that he is mostly displaying his own function bias and very little actually informing people about the nature of being. To inform people of the nature of being is to begin with the fact that function biases are going to be substantial and no, I mean that's the thing, Ron Solo. There's zero evidence for evolution. There's evidence for adaptation within a genome responsive to environmental stress, but there's shit tons of evidence that never creates a new species. It never differentiates the genome into two groups. So, for example, dogs can still breed with wolves, and we know for a fact that that's as selective that's as an intense selective pressure as it could ever possibly be on any species because it's intentionally and willfully attained by humans. So if we can't get dogs to speciate with an artificially degree of pressure that could never even exist in nature, well, we know it doesn't work. And we've had millions and millions of generations of fruit flies to deal with, and yet to see a single one of them ever turn into anything but a fruit fly. Okay, well, Ron Solo, there's no disputing that the fossil record would seem to indicate increasing branching complexity. Of course, by the same logic, we could conclude that houses evolved by growing more complicated forms out of less complicated forms. No, Ron Solo, dogs are the opposite. They don't prove it. They show that no matter how far we push a genome's adaptability, it never speciates. There's adaptability within the genome, and when pressures upon the genome reside, what happens? Everybody returns to the genetic mean. Well, it's not a wild claim. We've been breeding dogs for 10,000 years. They still can mate with wolves, right? See, it's like I'm making actual points here, Ron Solo. You're not. Look, lots of things in life challenge me. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. I don't position myself as the smartest guy in the world, always right, or anything like that. There are other powerful debaters out there. I've got former students who could probably beat me, But if she wants to make it win-loss adversarial, she'll lose. I have complete confidence in that. Well, I mean, that's the point, Ron Solo, right? That's what I was just saying. It's like, I love being challenged. And as long as anybody comes in non-adversarial and is actually talking about the issues, we'll figure out who's right about it. Like, regarding the evolution thing, I'm right because of the arguments I'm saying, not because I'm a good debater, because the arguments are the winning arguments. And the evolution side has all the losing arguments. They just don't hold any water. I mean, look, I don't have no vested interest in it. I'm not a creationist. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. But I'm not going to deny reality. I'm a debate coach. And I can tell when something's all smoke and mirrors. There's no actual. It's such a clusterfuck of a mess of the metaphor and who knows what that. Yeah, it makes it almost hard to negate because evolution doesn't know what it is. Doesn't know what it is. Explain punctuated equilibrium to me, Ron Solo. Now, why is it that all of a sudden everything evolved really fast and then stopped evolving completely? Why is that again? Why do we have this punctuated equilibrium thing? No, I don't need a theory of my own. I'm not the one purporting to explain things. It's like if you come up to me and say, Eureka, I figured out where rainbows come from. They come from frog burps. And I go, really? Can you establish that? It turns out they can't establish it at all. And then they go, well, you don't have an alternate theory about where rainbows come from. I'm not the one saying I know where rainbows come from. You are. And you're saying the wrong thing about where they came from. Oh, so how many years do you think it took for humans to evolve, Ron Solo? You think we evolved slowly over 4 billion years? That would put you exactly at odds with every single evolutionary scientist, all of whom seem to agree that we evolved magically over about 10 million years from little teeny bugs to fully formed sapient creatures. No, I mean, that's what evolutionary scientists all agree in the Cambrian explosion, when like all the species suddenly appeared within like 10 million years. That's what all the evolutionary scientists agree on, Ron Solo. I'm not a wordy simpleton. I mean, that's just the truth. If you don't like that evolutionary science, then you should be negating it, not affirming it. I'm not lying to you. There was a major extinction event every 40 million years. The last one being about 66 million years ago. And, we basically had all the species we have 10 or 15 million years after that extinction event. Unchanged ever since. So I'm not underestimating the power of time. I'm being realistic about the amount of time afforded. How long has humanity bred dogs? 25,000 years, maybe? Most importantly, though, humanity's applied direct, willful, selective pressure that is vastly more intense than anything nature could produce. So, you also got to think about how many generations. So it may be difficult to evolve a 1,000-year-old tree, right? Because you got long generations. But we've also done a lot of work with fruit flies, and they've got very short generations. So, uh, a million years in people years is like a billion years in fruit fly years in terms of generations, If in fact, evolution's basic concept were right, why isn't it the case that species with shorter generational turnarounds don't evolve more quickly or at all? you know, these are real questions, Ron Solo. I'm not just being wordy and trying to win this debate. I'm serious when I tell you evolution is an embarrassment. It explains nothing. It contradicts itself. It keeps redefining itself as every one of its previous definitions falsifies itself. There's no explanation of the mechanism, and nobody seems to care. That's not me being wordy or simpleton, Solo. That's me being right. Again, I'm taking an objective calculus. I was raised in an atheist household where evolution was driven into my head. I was raised in a pro-choice household where pro-choice was driven in my head. And I had to give up both those positions, not because I wanted to be contrary, not because I wanted to be religious or something, but because I realized that the positions that my family had imbued in me were the losing arguments. They actually lost the argument chains. It didn't matter whether they were mine or somebody else's. That's real. Okay, well, Ron Solo, what, are you talking about the same conversation I'm talking about? This conversation that we're having right now, I don't think is making me look foolish. I'm raising legitimate, very legitimate critiques about evolution. I'm not pro-choice because it loses the argument. Same reason I'm not pro-evolution. It makes no sense. the reason I'm not pro-choice is because look, you've got to come up with some sort of justification to say, put it this way, let's start at this spot. We know for a fact that anything after conception is an early stage of development of a Homo sapien. Okay? Well, listen, I'm answering your question, irrational skeptic. So if we're going to make abortion okay, we need to come up with some sort of meaningful distinction to explain why the right to life that we normally afford every person, regardless of age or stage of development, what is the reason why that right is not afforded to stages of development prior to birth? There needs to be an actual reason. Okay, so the thing is, people present lots of different reasons. I've heard shit tons of them. Moral agency, ability to exist independent of the mother, capacity for language, all kinds of various, basically arbitrary and random things that are just something that's different about a pre-birth stage of development than a post-birth to justify killing those people. There is no justification because any of those rules you try to apply, you realize it breaks down. If you really want to say it's okay to kill babies that can't live independent of their mother, then why not kill all the preemies? Right? But the most important argument against pro-choice is this. Okay, fine. Let's have pro-choice. But that means something specific. If we're playing at pro-choice, then we're all in agreement that the thing inside a woman's body is property, not a person. And that's fine, okay? Now look, if we're going to agree that it's property, not a person, fine. But then we have to treat it as property, which means it belongs half to the male who made it. After all, just because you and I build a car together on your property doesn't mean that I lose all my rights to the shared property because it's parked on your property, right? So the problem is this: women want their cake and eat it too. Pro-choice people want their cake and eat it too. They want it to be treated as property, but to violate the property rights of the father. It should be absolutely then not acceptable for a mother to abort without permission from the male who made it. So, if you are pro-choice, then you should say that. I'm in favor of a property rights calculus on pre-birth children that affords necessarily property rights to the father as well and requires me to get permission from the man who impregnated me before I can abort the child. But it legitimizes the behavior because it eliminates the consideration that it be called murder. But nobody's making that argument. Nobody's saying that, right? Even though that's the only justifiable thing you could say. You can have your abortion if you want it, but then it's property and we treat it as such. And that means women, you don't have a right to abortion. You have the ability to consensually come to an agreement regarding your shared property with the man who helped you make it. And then women don't like that all of a sudden, Hey, wait, no, Eric, no. Oh, so you do want to treat it as a human being. Well, then you can't abort it at all. No, not a human. Well, then you want to treat it as property, and that means you have a responsibility to the other property owner. It's like they want their cake and eat it too. And the answer to that is absolutely no. Fuck off. No. You will not be wrong in my presence. You will not be contradictory and ignore reciprocal burdens. You will not have your cake and eat it too in my presence without getting both my feet up your ass and in your mouth where they belong. And nothing to do with feminism, Angantir. It has to do with stupidity. Stupidity. Same thing with the COVID thing. Just rampant stupidity. People think they can have their part of the argument and not have to own the corollaries that go with it. Obviously, if you're arguing that you should be able to kill that thing inside of you, then you have to understand, I'm arguing that this is property and I will attain all the implications there ensuing. Feminism does not cost. What does feminism mean anyway? People, it's just another anti-group thing. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. We, as all of us, have a responsibility to force everyone to choose and decide things. You do not get to embrace advocacy X without owning all of the intellectual baggage that goes along with that. You know, if you want to argue that abortion's okay, you now own that thing as property. It's the only thing you can think. You are not allowed to then ever argue anything other than, oh, I really have to make sure I follow through on the paperwork with my male property co-property owner. You know? See my point, but I'm over relying on NI? I mean, I don't think I'm over relying on NI. I've got all kinds of arguments against abortion. But first of all, I mean, thing to note is who's the affirmation on abortion? It's pro-abortion people. Because the status quo is we don't kill humans regardless of stage of development. It's not okay to kill human beings, even if they're in early stage of development. The status quo is we don't think it's more okay to kill a newborn baby than it is an older person. So the pro-abortion people need to establish some actual distinction that they're using to justify killing the early stage of development of a human being. Well, I mean, it's obviously not a piece of property. It's a human being. It's an early stage of development of a human being. The right to own one's own body is implicit to being human. It is attained at conception and retained until death. And the property that is being occupied by another property owner, right? So it's like, let's say I'm living in your garage, and you've leased it to me for 9 months, and I've paid my lease. You have to wait for that lease to wrap up, and then you can kick me out. I'll get out myself. But you cannot then say, well, I don't want you in here. It's like, for the same reason, just because you're in my house, that doesn't mean I can kill you. Well, it's in my property. The same reason a woman cannot kill that thing inside of her just because it's inside of her. And so the thing is, what I am fundamentally is a correctist. The intellectual dark web people are all at least one step behind me in that regard, because they are positionists. They have various positions that they advocate for the purpose of advocating their positions. They've got belief systems, frameworks that are their predominant frameworks. But I'm a meta-analyst. So what I have instead is an ongoing correctness machine. I mean, meta-rational is more self-aggrandizing. It's got a little bit of enlightenment quality bullshit to it. So correctness is good because everybody can be correct. I mean, even if you're not good at it, all you have to do is listen to me. I live in Texas, and there's literally been people that have killed people, dragged them into their house, claimed self-defense, and got away with it. It's ridiculous. California is not a very gunny state, fortunately. I was shocked to learn a week ago that We actually have firearms in the house. I had no idea my dad still had his rifles and stuff. I mean, they're in his closet. He's got excellent gun safety. You see, he does a sensible thing. He leans the rifle back against the corner of the closet and stacks the ammunition next to it. I mean, you're going to have a gun. You're going to need to get to it at some point, right? Why would you want to have it in like a safe? By the time you get out of the safe, you're not going to be able to shoot the robber. People aren't sensible, but they are retentionable, able to be retained. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Right. I'm so tired of COVID, and COVID's tired of me. Well, I mean, I remember my dad's bolt action 22 from when I was a little kid. And I was just always told, don't play with it. That was the gun safety we had. Don't play with this, Eric. The first time I saw my dad display gun safety was when Rachel was changing her medication. And he's like, I should probably put a lock on the closet. You know, there's a firearm in there. And I was like, I knew that was totally unnecessary. But Rachel even said, yeah, that makes sense. Just because she didn't want to argue it, and I didn't want to argue it, you know. Well, Winston's mom, I gotta tell you, I've never been drawn particularly to guns at all. They seem dangerous to me. They seem a lot of responsibility. You know, it's like the only reason I would get a gun would be if I thought shit was going to get real crazy, you know, real crazy. And it would be part of a larger plan, I guess, at that point. They're enforcing with police there in the UK. I haven't seen anybody getting busted by the cops or anything around here. But different parts of the country play it differently. The key thing to note here is where are the legal justifications for this seizing of power and authority? Who's making the legal arguments to say this is okay? This is within the purview of the government. It's a ridiculous thing. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There are stores that are open, but you have to, like, I went to Bevmo today to get beer. You're supposed to order it online, and then they'll tell you when to come pick it up. But their online orders are like hour backlog. So I just went there and I said, I want to get a couple of 6-packs. And they just went and grabbed them for me and got them for me. They'll do that if you have just a couple of items. Well, all right. So we've got all these people milling around outside of Bevmo, waiting for their things, trying to stand on the piece of line. Whatever. Bullshit like that. How is that better? How is that better than just letting people go into the store and naturally keep their distance from one another? It's not better at all. It's the same. How is it better to put a piece of plastic over the touch screen on the card reader? The piece of plastic will just get as dirty as the thing underneath it. Look, every meaningful bunch of talking words is that it's an attempt to control the narrative. The dark web is an attempt to control the narrative by the mainstream media who see these people as outsiders, but it's not just to dismiss them, but to give them a colorful identity of sorts. So it both serves them and counterserves them. Certainly it makes them seem like they ought to be afforded less legitimacy because of this dark web title. The notion that conservatism is somehow dark is absolutely insane. People don't have nuanced enough understanding of things. Well, I mean, and here's the thing. Look, nobody's done anything to me. Right? Like, I want to stress this. Nobody's done anything to me. It's just all of a sudden, most of the stores are closed. Sam Harris is my favorite of the group, okay? But they are all false prophets. Sam Harris is stuck in his rationalist frame and just has an inadequately robust engagement with the meta frame. And Peterson's just mostly wrong. And what's his name? Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, he's a groupist. You know, at least Jordan Peterson tries to not be a groupist, but he's still a groupist too. Sam Harris isn't a groupist, but he's a Brett Weinstein is part of the dark web because he stood up to some incredibly insane identity politics bullshit. I mean, Brett Weinstein deserves no credit or respect from anybody, frankly. I've watched enough of his videos to know he's not a smart man. Not smart. Smarter, perhaps, than the complete idiots who surrounded him at Portland State's Diversity Cesspool University or something. But, I'm transracial, okay? What has that taught me? That everyone else's races are bullshit. I'm the most transracial, so I win at that point. Weinstein's such an evolutionist. I heard of this bullshit evolution explanation for something. None of these evolution explanations make any sense or hold any water. Nobody can explain them. That's the crazy thing. Nobody can explain evolution, and yet everybody's insistent on it. Isn't that weird? Nobody can answer any of my questions. Like evolutionary scientists. Might have any answers. They have no idea. But everybody just keeps on insisting on it anyway. Yeah, evolution and COVID alarm me. Like you go, but this thing's not has a very low fatality rate. Yeah, but it's super contagious. Okay, but once you get it, you'll have immunity. Yeah, but we've got to flatten the curve. But is it really going to overburden the healthcare system that much? It seems like it's pretty mild for almost everybody. You don't care about lives. You don't care about thinking, fucktard. Grow up. That's when it's time to talk about maturity and immaturity. Well, I mean, I don't know what I disagree about with it. Nobody's been able to actually explain what the mechanism is. It's not mutation. It's not selection. It's not genetic drift. What's the mechanism? Does anybody know? Anybody have any idea? It purports to explain how something occurred, but does not offer any information about the mechanism by which that occurred. If a species is a self-replicating genome, how can it become two genomes? Have we ever seen this occur? We can breed fruit flies for millions of generations. And they always come out fruit flies. Why is that? Oh, I see. Why is it that even though we've bred dogs as far as anybody possibly can see breeding them, that we still can't speciate them? And that if we were to let them all go, they'd revert to the genetic mean. Why is it that if evolution's right, more populous species aren't more genetically diverse? They're not. More and less populous species have the same amount of genetic diversity. So you tell me how it is that evolution explains anything at all. Yeah, Chihuahuas can breed with wolves. That's why evolutionists have chosen to remove the definition of species entirely. They say, okay, we don't use that definition of species anymore. It's not the breeding thing, the viable offspring breeding thing. Okay, but then how do you explain ligers and donkeys or mules, whichever one's the whatever, you know? Race doesn't exist. There's no correlate to make there. Race is make-believe. I've been all the different races, E3 Zombie, and my intelligence has been unchanged, despite all of my racial changes that I've undergone. Okay, well, you know. In other words, it's like every other fucking thing that comes around. What makes this one so much worse? It's got a lower fatality rate than the flu. It does, if you look at the data correctly, if you acknowledge the fact that if we're only testing the sickest people, that in fact, the fatality rate is going to be much, much lower when you test the general population. That's just basic science, basic data gathering. I read some article where some data analysis fucking tried to turn that shit the other way around. It was the most appalling, dishonest thing I've ever seen. But note here, most importantly, if you were to release all the dogs back into the wild, the species would revert to a common genetic mean. Why? Because genomes extinguish differentiation within the species. They don't reward it. It is not the case that all of those different breeds of dogs could successfully survive by themselves as well as the other ones, right? I mean, and that's where selection matters. We have negative selection, which reinforces the existing genome, extinguishes deviation from that genome, and explains why, in fact, more popular species don't have more genetic diversity within them. So, if you're still thinking that evolution is correct, but you have no responses to any of these things I'm saying, then you're not thinking and never were in the first place. Bada bing, bada boom. If you know what I'm saying. Why is this slider still empty? Because I haven't refilled it yet. No matter how many times I click it. I had immunity before COVID even came around. I was born immune to COVID. I was born immune because I learned early on the key to stopping the COVID. When I saw COVID coming around, I said this: "Yo, COVID, I got one of these for you. And one of these. Get the fuck out." And what did COVID do? Ran like a little girl. What about AIDS? Didn't a man and a monkey created by intercourse? You make that sound so consensual. I have no idea where AIDS come from. Who cares? That's the thing. I don't care about where these things come from. Oh, is it a weapon or who fucking cares? It doesn't matter. It has no relevance on what we ought to do about it. That's what my old biology teacher believed, that God created evolution. One thing I can't justify and shouldn't have to justify, I'll use that to justify something that I can't justify and should have to justify. Zandy, that's like completely ass backwards. Completely wrong. Why would God create a system that doesn't produce species, but rather just reinforces species? You know, it's like, the thing is this. Again, remember the definition of a species. Everybody remember the definition of the species, okay? A self-replicating genome. It's the best definition I can come up with. How does a self-replicating genome turn into a different genome? We know it's not by selection. There are no positive selections. The best kind of selections that can ever be are nearly neutral. And genetic drift can only explain any movement genetically material in that capacity in populations under 100. We know that evolution didn't have long enough to do the work it supposedly did in 4 billion years, as we used to be taught. We know it only had about 10 million. And that made no sense. I mean, you got a tree that's 1,000 years old, and you're saying it evolved from a little grass to a 1,000-year-old generation tree from meow to meow in 10 million years. Well, 1,000 years is only 1,000 generations before you get to 1,000,000 years. And 10 more of those, 10,000 generations. You can get 10,000 generations probably in a year with something like fruit flies. So we know for a fact that there's absolutely no way that a elephant can evolve from a mouse in 10 million years, even if we ignore the fact that there's no mechanism to test. It just makes no sense. It's insane. It's the most colorful make-believe nonsense I've heard since spontaneous generation was responsible for maggots. Well, yeah, I got a good explanation. They just suddenly appear out of nowhere. Oh, that's not really an explanation, is it? All right, listen, it explains it. They just suddenly appear out of nowhere for no reason. That's my science explanation. No, Bucktard, that's not an explanation. Just like evolution's not an explanation. An explanation gives you a mechanism and a reason why that you can test and falsify or verify. Remember back when we tested and falsified evolution, and everyone just sort of, we didn't falsify it. Just pretend we didn't falsify it. We just change it dramatically into something else and call it the same thing. That'll be helpful. Evolutionists are shameless, utterly shameless. They're like the COVID apologists, utterly shameless people. Okay, so what changes though? Here's the thing. We keep forgetting we're talking about metaphors. Only individuals have genetic codes. So what changes from generation to generation? Remember, a species isn't actually a thing. It's a set name we use to describe a set of individuals who all share the quality of being part of the same self-replicating genome. So you tell me what it is that changes from generation to generation with this bomb. It's not the genome. That makes no sense at all. How would that change? After all, a species is a self-replicating genome. Descent with modification. What's modified? What is modified? These are sort of basic questions that smart idiots don't ask. And if you want to talk about smart idiots, evolutionary scientists are the world's biggest smart idiots. Okay, so here's a perfect example, Winston's mom. Just because lions, tigers, and bears all appear to come from a same common answer on a branching fossil record, I agree that branching fossil record would appear to suggest that there's increasing complexity over time. However, we wouldn't make the mistake of saying archaeologists just found a yurt, and it turns out that all round houses and houses that are made out of certain materials are direct descendants of the yurt. We wouldn't say that because it's stupid and makes no sense. Because, in fact, growth in architectural complexity was not an evolution of an old building into a more complicated building, right? That's not how it happened. We knocked down the building and built a new one. The fossil record doesn't prove anything. It suggests some sort of relationship between these species and their appearance across time. But until you give me a mechanism by which that change occurs, evolution has explained nothing. Nothing. I have. Listen, I talked to evolutionary scientists. They have no more answers than anybody else. But they still don't want to acknowledge that I'm winning or that I'm right, you know? Eric has told pay child support, lol. Okay, so what you're telling me is a new species of bird arrived on an island called Daphne Major. It was a new species on that island, didn't exist before. And he managed to breed. Contradictory premises. You see, if he could breed with those other birds, they were actually the same species. Now we can tell that that's the distinction quality speciation because look at old Lonely George, the last Galapagos turtle. They tried to breed him with a whole shit ton of turtles that were just like Galapagos turtles, but not quite the same species, and none of them produced any viable offspring. So, in fact, Winston's mom, if that bird was able to breed with the other birds, it was the same species. See what I'm saying? Now, it is the case that you can cross different sports of the same breed, get variations. We see in plants all the time. Notice that despite tens of thousands of years of breeding agricultural foods for our own benefit and purposes, we've never created a new species. Wheat's always stayed wheat, maybe more drought resistant, more frost resistant. Rice has always stayed rice. Right? Okay, so now here's the other thing. There is what evolutionists always fall back to is purportedly some sort of evolution in viruses. First of all, that still doesn't explain any mechanism. If you don't have a mechanism, Winston's mom, you've not done the job of evolution. Evolution's job is to explain how speciation occurs. You're trying to say, no, evolution's right. Well, it can't be right, Winston mom, because to be right, it has to explain how speciation occurs. It doesn't. It fails utterly. Every attempt to produce a mechanism and actually explain it makes predictions, and then it gets falsified again and again and again. So it's absolutely not the case that any sane person would think that evolution is proved by Richard Blinsky's 12 populations of Escherichia. Because note what never seems to happen. No matter how much evolution the viruses undergo, they never stop being viruses. They never get more complicated. Right? There's adaptation within their genome. They don't use any reproduction, so what's the mechanism? Note how nobody answers my question. If evolution explains speciation, what is the mechanism by which speciation occurs? It's a simple question. If evolution explains speciation, then go ahead and tell me, what is the mechanism by which speciation occurs? Nobody, not a single person, no matter how fancy a scientist they are, has ever been able to answer that question. That's how you know that evolution is complete and utter bullshit. The end. I mean, I can answer their questions. I can answer their questions about evolution better than they can. Do you see the sass in my heart right now? Do you feel the sass? A fair amount of sass in my heart. I'm feeling sassy about the wrong people. Okay, this recent COVID thing, right? I'm accustomed to being right, but I'm not accustomed to everybody else being quite that wrong. So dramatically and butt fuckedly, you know? It's like, God, you people are so wrong. How can you tolerate carrying around that much wrongness? They have a high tolerance for wrongness. I am fabulously sassy. And I'm sassily fabulous. What's the best combination of somebody who's both sassy and fabulous? Sassulous or fabulous? Fabulous sass. Fabulous sass. Fabsassable. Fabsaspulously. Fabsaspulously. All right. If somebody offered you a tall glass of sassafras or a tall glass of sass, which would you choose? Personally, I'd choose the sassafras. It's the only one of those two things you can drink. I don't want a tall glass of your sass. It tastes like kombucha. Your sass does. It tastes like one half finger wag and one half. You don't know me. Oh, saspulous. Okay, you're right. Yeah, Vainamoinen. Got it right. Saspulous. Okay, then I'm going to give you a challenge one. What's the word to combine somebody who's both a pedant and neurotic? Heterotic? Nerdantic? Apple cider vinegar does cure everything. Rachel's been on an apple cider vinegar cake. Everything that we encounter lately, like we have this fungus on this tree we're trying to get rid of because it's not good for the tree. And apple cider vinegar. What should you put in your hair? Apple cider vinegar. We don't have any apple cider vinegar, but Rachel's a believer for sure. The apple cider vinegar. What's wrong with regular vinegar? What's it made out of? Death? Corpses? Oh, you don't want the regular vinegar. It's made out of corpses. That's why it's such a biohazard. I got such a nice bag of choking hazards for my birthday. I've yet to choke on any of them, but fingers crossed. I might absentmindedly put one in my mouth while in the bath. Or I got to take him to the bath today. I took a bath, but I forgot to take the amenities with me, the choking hazards. Sasarunaduni? Sasarunaduni. Well, that would have to be a combination of I guess, Kim Jong-un, sass, and id, and uni, which is Japanese for tuna. It's like, what do you get when you cross Kim Jong-un and a casserole? You get a Kim Jong-asserole. Neurotic, erotic, sporadic. There's autoerotic. That's finding yourself very sexy lady. I don't like to leave them with hooks in them. In general, the impact of fishing on the environment bothers me. But I like to fish a lot. But I fish in what I would say is generally a very humane way, which is I do use barbed hooks, but I don't use treble hooks. And I'm just trying to catch the fish who usually have the hook just poke through their cheek, and I can just pull it out and set them free, and they're fine. And I figure, life's a struggle, fish. You gotta get reeled in here, but you're gonna be fine. But turtles, it's really hard to get the hook out of them because you can't stick your finger in there because they'll bite your freaking finger out. And I'm just not fishing for turtles. I don't want to catch turtles. I want to catch a fish, and I feel bad for the turtles. It's like I'm trying to catch catfish, right? But if you try to catch catfish on the bottom, you're gonna end up with 5 turtles for every catfish. There's shit tons of turtles in that lake. It's not like there's a paucity of turtles. It's not like they're endangered or anything. People have released their turtles into that lake for a while now. It's teeming with them. Well, I just want to have a fun experience catching fish. I like fishing. I like the fishing part. I don't necessarily need to catch things, but when I do catch things, it's more fun. But I want a fish that fights on the line, and you got tired out a little bit, try to keep it out of the weeds. Fun time. I can't justify it like to myself, Eric. Why do you enjoy this horrible activity where you're causing this animal suffering and stuff? But that's just part of my SI. I went fishing all my childhood. My dad was always taking us fishing, and we usually would come home with a shit ton of fish too. We'd freeze them, and we had horrible fish later on, horrible frozen fish. Yikes, I detect FI, something I formerly thought ENTPs were incapable of. I'm very FI about children, women, and animals. Yeah, I used to be drunk all the time when I was fishing. That was, my trips to Mammoth to go fishing, on vacation with the family. Those were drinking times that, by and large, I remember fairly fondly. I remember getting up early, getting a couple of little 100 proof Smirnoffs, going up to the lake, renting a boat, going out there. I think at that time I must have had a half pint because I was pretty drunk by the time I got back. After I fished for a while on the lake, there's some ducks came by, and I just started feeding the ducks my worms, and finding it incredibly delightful in that sort of drunken glow way, I guess. But nothing that I do anymore, obviously, and yeah, Lacey would be in the boat with me too. Lacey would never row with me. I am very FI. Sometimes part of having FI polar means I can be really overwhelmed by FI in the moment, especially if it involves seeing an animal getting hurt. Like one time I saw my old cat was stuck in a fence, and her paw was stuck there, and she was hanging there, and she couldn't get this paw out. It was like stuck between 2 slats in a fence. And when I saw her meow meow, I like ran over there and just like it like disturbed me so much, and I just broke the fence, and she got out of there, and then I just fell to the ground, and I just it was like I can't handle that stuff at all. I can't handle the FI. I had that same experience when I tried to at the lake the other day when there was a sad thing with this turtle and I don't like to think about it. It makes me very sad. I also get sad sometimes for tree. For example, like we had this Christmas tree in here, and one night Rachel suggested, or somebody else in the chat suggested, I don't remember who, that we pull a card for the tree. And we pulled a card, and it was very stressed out because we're stuck in here and not really getting water, and so I basically, I don't think I explicitly burst into tears, but sort of metaphorically I did, and ran outside and transplanted the tree outside, and it's still there. It's doing fine. It's happy now. um, Fishing is just as gratifying sober, more so than it is drunk. Even fishing is something you can do drunk and enjoy drunk, but it's better sober or not drunk. I mean, I don't know if you consider me sober. I'm smoking weed while I'm doing that. Sometimes I'm on Adderall or whatever, but by and large, you would call me unimpaired. Certainly, I'm pretty much always unimpaired. So I tend to sometimes refer to myself as sober. To get impaired, I really have to either do a lot of Adderall, and that impairs me in a I mean, it impairs me in the sense that performance enhancing drugs impair you. And it makes you really good at the thing you're enhancing the performance of, maybe the exclusion of other things. But sitting down. Sitting down is something we should all learn to do before we die. If you haven't learned to sit down yet, you should work on it. Your body will thank you. My neighbors have a goat who cries every morning. Yeah, well, she's crying for its mother. It's sad. And then, of course, now it's heartbreaking to hear it. When you just think it's a goat bleeding, you don't really think about what it is. Why is this goat bleating? Man, whatever, not going to think about it. But if you get told a sad story like that, it's like, oh, get its mother, for God's sakes. Yeah. I'm least FI about people. I'm most FI about things that I feel like don't have a voice. Children, obviously, are people too, but children and animals. And the other kind of story that really gets my FI is young women being sexually exploited in some fashion. That bothers me a lot too. So those things are things I try to avoid as best I can. And in general, I don't like to see or witness suffering or injustice. As a general rule, I try to look away from that kind of stuff. Like, I don't feel any obligation to seek it out, experience it. I feel an obligation to try not to. I'm going to end up experiencing plenty of it anyway. Plenty of shit I can't not notice, My friend's calling Liz had a baby goat, or like a pygmy goat, is what it's called, named Tofu. Pretty fun little animal. Now, granted, it knocked the children over when they were little. We had, like Corey's kid was like the same age as my kid, right? When our kids were like 3 or 4 years old, they got this goat. The goat would run up to the children and push them over with its head. And like, and Delilah would be just doing something, whatever, and not paying attention to the goat, and then all of a sudden she'd be on her butt. Ah! Like, Tofu, stop fucking pushing the children over. That's goats for you. They love pushing over children. I mean, I have no problem with eating slaughtered animals. I could probably even slaughter an animal to eat it. It would not be fun. Not something I'd want to do. But like, let's say I was instructed to slit the throat of the pig that they were gonna. Yeah, it was the goat's name. It was Tofu. Let's say I had to slit the throat of the pig they're going to do in the luau, like buried in the dirt or whatever. And my job was they're going to do all the hard cooking work, and all I had to do was slit the pig's throat. Fuck it, I'll slit it. I think I probably would have bad memories of it, but I'd just totally do it. I'd be like, well, like somebody's got to kill this thing, and I'm going to eat it regardless. So I might as well kill. At least I'll get. At least it's fair. I'm incurring the FI harms. Sagittarius rhymes with dad's hilarious. Anybody notice that before? Anybody ever thought about that? Well, I'd say something Bainamoinen. If I ever make a feature film, well, yeah, because that's not disrespecting life in the same way. I mean, I'd want to make sure I did it quick. Yeah, that's the thing. I wouldn't necessarily have felt bad if I had caught a turtle intending to catch a turtle and chopped its head off and then cooked it and ate it. I wouldn't feel bad about it. I've killed things before, killed plenty of fish before. I had to put down a pet chicken. I don't like doing it. I've killed enough things at this point. I understand the taking of a life as an acceptable thing. Not human, but I don't accept causing suffering, like choosing to cause suffering for the point of causing suffering to be anything other than just absolutely appalling. Okay, well, Nicholas Watson, once the pig's dead, the rest of it's easy. You're just butchering. Several people just posted what? That they've got pigs up their butt? That seems unlikely. The anuses ain't that large. Unless they're piglets. What? Several people just posted what? That they've got pigs upside their butt? That seems unlikely. Angantier. A pig's too big to fit in the rear. Isn't that a good poem? That's such a good poem. See, the thing is, I think for this song here, this Plague instrumental song, I think I want to do some sort of Plague lyrics, like. Like, hey, I was promised a plague. I want to see dead bodies through and all around every day, everywhere. How many lives have I saved today with this mask and underwear on my head? I'm tired of the smell of my own face. I'm totally tired of all these lies, cherry picking data and why. Test the most sick and say that they are all going to die. Fatality rate dramatically below anything even remotely comparable. You know, why? Because pia. I should debate Stephen Molyneux. Hey, Stephen Molyneux, you know I'm calling you. Would you like to debate me? My name's Eric. Your name's Stephen. Okay, Stephen. Okay, debated Stephen, right? I'd be so tempted to call him Stephanie. Hey, Stephanie, why don't you untuck your nuts? I'm yelling at you. Stephanie Molyneux. Danger sounds are going to come to your ears from my mouth. And your lights are going to blink red in your eyeballs. Danger, danger, danger. Stephen Molyneux, I'm calling you. I'm calling you, Stephen Molyneux. I'm calling you out. I'm calling you to the pew. I'm going to debate you at church, Stephen Molyneux. Would you like that? Would that be special for you? Oh, yeah. I'm rapping tonight. Rapping about that COVID fright. COVID alarmists, get out of my sight. I don't want to wear this mask. It's most likely unneeded. I don't want to stay inside after 10 p.m. It's entirely sane to no one. Viruses work the same in the morning or the evening, in the afternoon, anytime. They're equal opportunity investors. That's a nice name, COVID. You got a nice name, COVID. You remind me of a coat in Jovid. Winston's mom is named Stephanie. I know it was on the packages she sent to me. Hey, Eric, it's from Stephanie. I said Stephanie Molyneux? She said, no, who the hell you think you do? I'm Stephanie Winston's mom from the chat, not Stephanie Molyneux. Get a new hat. Oh my God. That is such a coincidence, Winston's mom. I've also always felt like a Samantha. You know, you can see it, right? I'm Samantha. Nothing womanly about that name. They call me Samantha. You's a woman, Joe. So don't be talking shit to me, yo. I'm Samantha. Man of all the sus and the thus, I'm Samantha. Yeah. Man of all the sus and thus, Samantha. I'm the mayor. I'm the mayor of Samantha Town. Oh, yeah. Carpet matches the drapes. Someday they'll call me Samantha, like I want, with the accent on the man, cause I'm super hot and tough and rough and stuff. Gonna beat Stephen Molyneux enough. Hey, Stephen Molyneux, I'm calling you up. Come debate me, you little old pup. I hear you're wrong about something or other, and even if you ain't, what the hell, brother? I'll wipe the floor with you. Always good use you do right. Clean up the dirt on the floor side. Clean now, filling up the tight. Yeah, someday Ben Shapiro is gonna come my way, and he's gonna say, "Hey, Samantha, it's you." I'll say, "That's right, Juju." I don't mean it derogatorily. I just mean Stephanie Molyneux. Gee, you and C.S. Joseph and he, along with Ben Shapiro's Pete. Cause in a line in a bucket with COVID masks on your face and bucket, cause why not taste a little bit of my nuclear bombs? Spitting from my mouth and blowing up all of your arms. Stephen Mullen, you can be 55 or 56 or 52, but he's going down just like you two, cause he's going up against me. Well, Stephen Molyneux doesn't understand this is going to be a rapping debate, and he's no man who can rap with me. Freestyle's difficult. You got to practice lots. You got to see a fault. You got to fix it hot. You got to make it good. A race realist? That's not a real thing. I'm transracial. Now, that is real, because I am racially fluid. If he's a race realist, what's the reality about my racial druid? Huh? Picking the right name. Is it a hot and I thing game? I suppose it's like a hot and I thing to pick the right name. Like Bane Morning is not the right name at all. Bane Morning, your name should be Jane. And CJ O'Connell's his name. His name should be Paul O'Donnell thing. Then he'd have a different name, one that's different than the same, and a better one, James. So, hi, Winston's mom, you misnamed. You're not Stephanie neither, you're Pam. Like from the rule of the villain who converted and saved everybody's hide. Race realist, that's just a word for a groupist who prioritizes race groupings, which are even more arbitrary than most. But of course, everybody's always wrong when they're talking about groups because they don't know shit and they shouldn't do their thinking by themselves. If they're thinking about groups, just listen to me because I drive a coupe and I'm transracial. So I'm the least racist of all. Racially fluid. Races, yeah. I've been them all. I should listen to Tonetta. I won't listen to Tonetta. You think you know much better, but you never knit a sweater. So I won't listen to Tonetta again. Tonetta never peeped on me. I'm gonna peep on she. Oh, Tonetta better be, cause I don't want your Nutella sandwich. I don't want your blue hell sandwich. You're a landwich. I'm tired of it, bitch. I've heard of Tonetta. I regret it. A lot of sets of things that I did, but never wetter. A Tonetta. Okay, so now we've learned a lot. We've learned so much that I'm tired of learning. I can't learn anymore. I'm all learned out. Angantier, is your name a common name? Zandy, is your name a common name? Huh? Zandy? I've never heard it before. It rhymes with Zundy and Zondi. No, it doesn't. It doesn't rhyme with either of those. Think of me as your spirit guide. I am here. I want to say, your name is Zandy Bell? That's a great name, except I really want that Y to be an I. Zandabel. You know? Zandabel is fantastic. Zandabel. Fear not, Zandabel is here. You called for Zandabel? Wizard of Fresno, or Sacramento, or Bakersfield, or wherever it is you live, or somewhere over there. Do you know that Zandabel is the Wizard of Bakersfield? The crazy thing is, Bakersfield has a lot of fields, but remarkably few bakers. We should have just named it Fields. Regular Fields. The connection to the baked goods, I just not seeing it. I think it's costing our great city a lot of tourist dollars because they come here expecting bakeries galore, bakeries and fields, they say. When I get to Bakersfield, I'm going to have nothing but bakeries and fields. But the reality turns out to be, yes, fields, sort of, on the outskirts of town. Paucity of bakeries. I know when I went there, and my traveling companion asked me, "What's your perspective on the bakeries?" I replied, "I'd say there's a paucity." My traveling companion said, "Indeed, a lack here of bakers." We were both disgusted. Proceeded on to Fresno and found it absolutely gorgeous by comparison. Okay, if Fresno is absolutely gorgeous in comparison to your city is an ugly city. And I speak as somebody who comes from an ugly city. Los Angeles is not a pretty city. It's not an attractive city. Where do you live? Let's just say Fresno makes it look good. Ooh. Do you live in a septic tank? I'm just teasing you, Zandy. I have no idea if Bakersfield's nice or not. I'm seriously, I think I've been to Bakersfield like once, maybe like 25 years ago or something. I haven't been to Fresno in 30 years. I have no fucking idea what this places are like. It's just sort of an LA thing to make fun of places in the middle of California like Fresno, Bakersfield. I tell you what's not pretty, Winston's mom. Poor naming related tragedies. We can always reference back to the peanut, which is neither a pea nor a nut, but rather a legume. Well, I mean, it is a legume like a pea, but it's not a nut. We could talk about Bakersfield. Big problem. How many people arrive at Bakersfield fully expecting a slew of bakers awaiting them and none to be found? Or what's another ill named place or thing? Census Bureau. How many people think that speaks French? A lot. George Washington Carver. How many people think that's his profession? He was somebody who carved things. Poorly named. Also, George Washington. That name's already taken, George Washington Carver. That was the first president's name, George Washington. Don't tell me you thought it was just coincidence. You had no idea. You knew. Trying to make yourself sound important like George Washington. You're just a carver, okay? You're not George Washington. It's like that's the ultimate form of putting like a sports player's jersey on. Just be you, okay? You do you, George Carver. Just lose the Washington entirely. You don't need that. It's not helping. You're making a derivative. Okay, what other historical figures do I have scoldings for? Andrew Jackson, you were a real fucktard, let me just say. Your whole Trail of Tears shit, ignoring the Supreme Court, dark moment in American history. Really dark. Not a happy time. I disapprove, and I think a lot of other people do, too. Hey, Skate here. Don't make irresponsible statements like that. A peanut is a legume. And it's important we use language correctly because let's say one day you're assigned to an all legume diet. You eat some peanuts by accident. You're not aware of the legumes.
and you force yourself to vomit, of course, because you've eaten unacceptable food. Now, in vomiting, you tear up the inside of your throat and you begin to have a chronic throat bleed, all because you used the wrong word. Pigum or les nuts, les peanuts, les pigum. Okay, listen, it's right here. Something cannot be both a nut and a legume. Okay? Now, sure, you might have a legume. It's an especially nutty tasting legume. That's not out of the question. But in the same sense, you might have a particularly pork tasting piece of beef. It doesn't make it come from a cow. Tomato is a fruit. Tomato is a fruit because it's got seeds in it. And depending on where you shop for your tomatoes, a lot of them have my man seed in them. I'm always looking for a good place to deposit a load. Just charity, I want people of the world to have an opportunity to get a tomato full of my man seed. People report it to the police all the time. Apparently, they don't like it, but they'll get used to it. If all peanuts are legumes and all legumes are nutty, are all nuts peanuts? No, but it would be the case that all peanuts are nutty. Look, I'm a sucker for petty disagreements. All right, I will agree with you that a tomato is a vegetable colloquially. In other words, if you want to convince mom that you've eaten some vegetables, you can eat tomatoes and probably get away with that. But that's just because mom's dumb. Okay. First of all, why is this distinction being made that I need to eat vegetables and that tomato has to have a status as either vegetable or fruit? If you weren't trying to control my diet, we wouldn't be having this problem in the first place. Okay, let's try it this way, Zandy. If all Zandys worded that logic problem incorrectly, and Skygear, Lord of the Promiscuous in E tool, is a Zandy, then what can we conclude? That's right. We can conclude it was actually Skygear who worded that incorrectly. Mockernut hickory. Does it mock your nuts? Is your husband always getting emasculated by this tree? Hey, nice raisins there, buddy. Don't mock my nuts. You shouldn't have bought a mockernut tree. That's what we do. You got shitty nuts. I'm making fun of them. You haven't even seen my nuts. I've seen them. No, you haven't. Well, show them to me. See, they're fine. Oh, those nuts aren't any good at all. Those are broken testicles. Rancid scrotum. Okay, we're cutting down this tree. I don't think I can take this abuse day after day. Now, you want to see some nuts? Look at my nuts that I grow. I'm a mockernut tree. My nuts get huge. I mean, just like 50 times as big as your nuts, Eric. Raccoons and possums come and sit in me. Okay, well, I'm not jealous about that mockernut tree. I don't want raccoons and possums sitting on me, especially possums. They're disgusting. Did I ever tell you, mockernut tree, the story of the time I went to my garage in Temple City? And I didn't see anything right away. I walked into the garage, and I smelled this really strong, gamey smell. I was like, what the fuck is that smell? And I sort of scanned the area, and being not a sensor, it took me a second. And then I scanned it again, and it's standing right in front of me. It's standing stock still, so I guess I didn't notice him at first. A big ass possum. And I was like, ah! I squealed like a little girl and ran back into the house. I hate possums. They're ugly. They're unpleasant. They're rude. They hiss at you. They're blind. They stink. They're marsupials. Marsupials, I don't know about marsupials. I'm just not really feeling marsupials, you know? What the fuck are they? They seem like kind of like weird. It's like every marsupial kind of reminds me of a scrotum. They kind of like kind of scrotal quality to them. Of course, not everybody hates possums or is grossed out by them. I'll always have to give Kimberly credit in certain areas. And I will never forget the day that we we were pulling into the house and there was some dead animal in the gutter. Kimberly's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Oh, it just looks like a dead possum or something." And she's paying attention to it. She's, of course, staring avidly at it the whole time. He moved! Next thing I know, I'm sitting on the front porch. Kimberly's there, cradling this totally like kind of possum. It had fallen out of the tree. It was badly injured. It was not long for the world. Kimberly couldn't save that one. But I just thought, oh my God, your tolerance for gross, disgusting possums is quite impressive. There's zero chance I would ever cuddle a possum. I mean, never. I don't kill them. I don't harm them or anything. But like, I had to get them out of my garage on a couple of occasions in Temple City. One time I had a baby one that was in there, and I had to. I was climbing up around things. I had to I get a box and I scoop it with a broom into the box, and then I took it up down by the storm drain and let it down over there. A third gross thing that happened to me in Temple City that I will never forget, and this was the worst of them all. I was sitting at my computer just like this. I feel this weird, like, little pinching feeling on my toe. I have my flip flops on, just like this. Well, I do things on. And I'm like, oh, whatever. And I feel a fairly strong pinch. Not enough to break my skin, but it's like, what the fuck is pinching my toe? Is that Kitty? Yeah, sometimes Kitty would come over and bite my toe or something. I looked down, and stuck between my shoe and my toe was a potato bug. Now, you want to talk about screaming and running. I kicked off my shoe. And I fucking tore ass back into the house from the garage. I hate potato bugs. They're just so disgusting. If you don't know what a potato bug looks like, I'll find you a picture of a potato bug. They're actually a form of scorpion, but they don't have a stinger. So they're not dangerous, but they're just incredibly gross. When I was a kid, anytime we kids would find a potato bug, we'd all go, ew, and kill it as quickly as possible because they're just so gross. They do emit a foul smell as well. They are capable of inflicting a painful bite. Well, the potato bug did not inflict a painful bite on me. It was enough to make me go, hey, that's a pretty hard pinch, but it didn't break any skin. But, oh, they're so gross. Oh, they're the grossest. And you look at how they're big, too. They're like the biggest bugs around here. Big ass, fucking disgusting, like fetus looking bugs. Ugh. Potato bugs. They are native to western United States and parts of Mexico.
If you click potato bugs, search Google potato bugs, go to images, you'll see lots of images of horrible potato bugs. Should we kill potato bugs as soon as we see them? Yes. Yes, we should. Ugly overload. Potato bugs are evil. I agree with that. This is true. They're just so awful that I just kill them on sight. They're yucky, yucky creatures. And this guy has it right. This blog article here has it right. You'll find everything you hate in an insect in the potato bug. You're afraid to lift that cardboard box that's been sitting outside for too long because there might be a potato bug lurking underneath it. You're afraid to empty your pool skimmer because there might be a potato bug bobbing in the water. They're huge and armed with spike hind legs that will thrash you if you pick them up. They're also known as the Jerusalem cricket with its more charming name, but don't let that fool you. They're evil. Their natural predators include birds and rodents. This is one of the few times I'm truly thankful for the rats that infest the ivy in the backyard. Ew, potato bugs. Yeah, potato bugs are the worst. Why are potato bugs so gross? What happens if you Google that? Why are potato bugs so gross? This is the dreaded potato bug of our childhood. It's actually a Jerusalem cricket, and they do bite. I happen to think that many insects are rather beautiful and many more are at least elegantly ugly. Not so with this critter. He definitely falls in the category of double ugly. Sorry, dude. Your lot in life is to send children screaming into the house or adults. Here's a nice description. As usual, references are at the bottom. Note that it does get called a potato bug because it destroys potatoes. There are several species of Jerusalem crickets in the basin, none apparently named. These insects are immediately recognizable by their large size, bald, round heads, winglessness, heavily spined hind legs, and fat abdomens, ringed in black. They are known by several other common names, including sand crickets, children of the earth, and chacos. Locally, they've also been called potato bugs because they occasionally do to potatoes in the ground. But Jerusalem crickets are not to be confused with the Colorado potato beetle. The large size of Jerusalem crickets, they are up to 2 inches, and their amber-colored humanoid heads cause them to be the object of superstition and fear by some southwestern Mexican Indians. The Navajo thought them deadly poisonous and called them wosi tsini, which means skull insect or bone neck beetle. Although their strong jaws can bite with considerable force, Jerusalem crickets are not poisonous. The insects are nocturnal and live in the soil. Individuals are usually seen when they become stranded after a nightly sojourn above ground or when they are uncovered by the gardener's spade. They require high humidity and are most active during the spring. To attract each other, males and females drum the abdomen against the bottom of their burrows and on the ground. Mating begins with vigorous wrestling matches. Potato bugs are not easily kept in captivity. Who would want to keep a potato bug in captivity? Who wants a pet potato bug? Might as well just have like a pet tumor or something. This is my pet tumor. I love it. It's ugly, but it's mine. In 1950, the East German government claimed the Americans were dropping potato beetles out of planes over GD airfields in an attempt to sabotage their crops. True or an example of Cold War propaganda? I'd believe it either way. I'd believe that we did it. I'd also believe that we didn't. Yeah, diatomaceous earth. That's what I was suggesting to Rachel as an alternative to drying your hair. with a towel or a hairdryer. Why don't I just put a bunch of diatomaceous earth in her hair and that'll dry it out right away? They probably like, the ferrets probably like potato bugs. They'd probably be like, ooh, potato bugs. The other big ass bugs that I used to deal with a lot when I was a kid, because my mom would give me like a nickel for every one I'd kill, were the uh, big green tomato bugs with a big horn on their head. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They look kind of scary. They're, of course, completely harmless. Um, but yeah, tomato bugs, they're so green and we have these huge ass tomato bugs all over the tomatoes. I pick them off and stomp them onto the driveway. Tomato bugs. Okay. Yeah, this thing is a tomato bug. This is a tomato bug. What do I think of objective personality? I mean, Dave superpowers? Uh, it's I it's he's 150 miles along the wrong path. There's nothing but a box canyon at the end of this path for him. There's nothing relevant there, nothing meaningful. It's just taxonomical and haphazardly that. He fails to distinguish between processes, values, correlates, other things like that you need to do to have a meaningful model. So what do I think of it? I think it's a complete waste of time. I think there are no subtypes. There are 16 types because there are 16 configurations that are possible because of the mechanics of cognitive functions. Well, I mean, I think the any tool, the any solution to hair stuff is just cut it all off. We don't need it for anything. Cornstarch, huh? Tomato worms don't like. I got more than 150. I think I got 512 types or something like that. I mean, you know what's very safe, for instance, when I'm picking the tomato bugs off of the plant and stomping on them. That works just fine. They're big ass worms. It's like big ass bugs. It's hard to miss them, even though they blend in really well. As a general rule, I don't like to spray anything. But, my dad's a sprayer. He likes to spray shit. And it's like, why are you spraying poison again, Dad? Come on. You know how that goes. I gave Rachel a haircut last night. Ew, Zandy. Nobody wants to eat fried potato bugs. I cut Rachel's hair last night. I tried to follow her instructions. She wanted her hairdo the same length as the person on the justice card. Basically, collarbone length. I think I made it a little too short, but I did a pretty good job. It was pretty even. She fixed it up a little bit after I was done. It's surprisingly difficult, like cutting hair, especially girl hair, because, well, it's easy if you got a clipper with a number 2 or whatever on it. I don't have that clipper. One of the advantages of Laverne was access to all that haircutting equipment. Oh, that is not a good prank, Sky Garrett. If somebody played that prank on me, I would not be having it. Let me tell you that. No, we went to bed after we did the. Yeah, there is so much more hair than you anticipate. Here's the thing about it, also. So you get your line where you want it to be, and you realize that all the hair underneath your line is longer than the hair of the line you made. So you got to kind of go up underneath there and try to cut the underneath part, and then your scissors are straight, but the hair is supposed to be rounded. So you got to do a lot of snip, 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 and you can't just go chop, 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 right? Um, I didn't feel like I killed it, but I feel like I didn't fuck it up. So it wasn't perfectly even when I was done, but I tried to get it as good as I could, and then Rachel cleaned it up a bit. I think she got it pretty even. It's shorter. I feel it when I run my hands through her hair. Something like, oh, you got a lot less hair now. That's cool. Um, I will say this: I don't really like long hair. Not because I don't like the way it looks or anything. I just don't like all the long hairs that I find everywhere. It's like if you've got long hair, Winston's mom. I sure do hope that's a joke. If you actually think that's a good idea, you're wrong. That's a terrible idea. First of all, Kimberly doesn't live around here anymore. She moved up to Bishop with her sister. Um, I would not mind visiting with Kimberly again. I would not mind being friends with Kimberly, so to speak. But Rachel's pretty jealous, and I would not go pursue that at all. And it would be a ill-advised thing to do. I wouldn't mind seeing Haley again. If I have something I want to work with her on, I will have no problem contacting her, um, because I do like working with her. She's got a great voice. She's agreeable to work with, and that might happen. Um, you know, Rachel in general just needs to relax a little bit more. I mean, she's trying to relax. Like, I know she's starting to relax because she's letting down on the FE for a second sometimes and expressing more neediness, kind of expressing more like fear, I guess, and wanting reassurance. Um, of course, she doesn't need to worry about managing me at all, like FE wise. I don't need to be. I don't need maintenance in my relationships. Most other people seem to, but I really need very, very little maintenance in my relationship. I don't expect much from other people. Um, I do expect certain things from my significant other. Uh, I expect a general attitude of Rachel having ownership for my man needs, but I certainly don't expect her to, you know, attend to them when she doesn't want to, or when she's not having it, or whatever. she's just not in the mood, and I don't want to push it at all. That's no fun. Yeah, well, I remember Delilah had interesting time after the divorce. She ended up with a stepmother who became her primary mother for several years at least, and then her real mother got a man, and now she had a stepfather, and the stepfather was like, "Hey, why aren't you spending time with your child?" to his new wife, my ex-wife, and then the ex-wife started going all like, "Okay, well, I need my time with Delilah too." I mean, you haven't cared about it for years now. What? Why all of a sudden you need time with Delilah? You don't care about it. Anyway, and then when they broke up, and me and Candace broke up, well, you know, Delilah had the roughest time with that stepdad who handled that breakup with Delilah's mother very poorly. In other words, basically, no, Delilah's mom is um, probably INFP, could be ISFP, my first wife. Uh, so the thing is, Delilah's stepfather dealt with that very poorly, quite in contrast to the way Candace dealt with it. Uh, Basically, the stepfather broke up with Delilah too, kind of was like, okay, well, so I'm breaking up with your mother, so we're not really going to be in contact anymore, and I guess I'll still. But Delilah saw him as a close figure. She had him as a stepfather for a fair number of childhood years, and I liked him. He was a good stepfather. He cared about Delilah a lot more than her mother ever did. Um, he was incredibly dorky, but that's fine. I didn't expect him to teach her FE. To answer that question more correctly, Jake Hurwitz, yes, Candace, the ESFJ, is Delilah's mom. And Melinda, the IXFP, is Delilah's birth mother. But the ESFJ, my second wife, because I had primary custody of Delilah the whole time. And she mostly lived with me. She went to school in Temple City. She lived in Temple City with me and Candace. And Candace did most of the parenting. Candace was thrilled to do the parenting. Candace had some sort of weird physical problem when she was like, she started her period when she was like 7 years old or something. Anyway, she couldn't get pregnant. So what that relationship afforded Candace was the opportunity to have a child from age about 3 through about age 18ish, raise a child as her own, more or less. And of course, when Delilah was really little, she always wanted to call Candace mom in public places. This is third slot FE, right? Because she thought it would be embarrassing to not call her mom in front of other people, like in the supermarket. When was the last time you spoke to or saw Delilah's mother? 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. It's been a while. It was back in Temple City. I'd see her occasionally because her sister lived next door to me, but she didn't really go there very often. She's kind of a depressing story, frankly. When she cheated on me in that first marriage, and she cheated. Delilah keeps in touch with her. Delilah's a very good daughter, very guiltable. She loves me because I never do that to her. She's always got guilt trips from other parts of the family, Candace's family, Melinda's family, whatever, but not from us. We go, You go do your Thanksgiving, whatever you're gonna do. We don't give a fuck. We can meet up with you tomorrow or something. We're sensible. Yeah. Who cares about holidays? It's just another day. It's just another manic Monday. No. No. When she cheated on me, she was going to PCC, and which I'd encouraged because I wanted her to like get out of the house and do some things because she was like basically I didn't like her and she annoyed me, and I wanted to do stuff that I wanted to do with my friends. I didn't want her to come along because she was annoying. It was a terrible marriage. I don't know. It's like that. Talk about bipolar, right? I knew that she was annoying. I didn't like her before I married her. I didn't think it relevant particularly. Delilah had excellent role models for families. She had me, my parents. She had Candace and her family, which were very SFJ family oriented kind of stuff. She had Melinda's parents and extended family, which Melinda's dad is this kind of like ISTJ who would be called autism spectrum. He might actually be autistic a little bit. I don't want to say that lightly, but he's this guy from West Virginia who fought in Vietnam, like saw like full blast the bloodiest action for a long time, like grunt front of the thing, finding the Viet Cong. He's very Forrest Gumpy, this guy, Melinda's father, from West Virginia, as I said, and had a savant-like ability with languages, which is why he was up with the teams that were engaging the enemy, was because he learned Vietnamese. And then after that, he went to Mexico to find a wife, I think. I think that was his explicit plan, and learned Spanish while he was there. And every Mexican in Melinda's family, which is they're all Mexicans except for Tom. The mom, so Tom met Soledad, Melinda's mom, in Mexico, learned to speak Spanish, and married her and brought her back to the United States. And then they had the two daughters, and Tom had a good job and seemed to be fine. He had a stroke a few times, not so long back though, and anyway, his wife's a drunk. He's become a bit of a drunk. Melinda's a drunk. They're all drinkers. The mom always was. Abuelita, as I called her, Soledad. She's always getting into the tequila, those Mexicans. They're fun. I was a drinker back at the time too, so I appreciated that quality of them a lot. But I'd go to parties at their house, and it would be everybody there would be speaking Spanish, including Tom. But my Spanish is pretty iffy. But they were still fun parties. It's like you get a bunch of regular old Mexicans together, it's gonna be a fun party. Like I always have fun with Mexicans because they're so. You want some carne asada? I was like, yeah, I do. I do want some carne asada. Thank you. Oh, it's good. You should try this chili. This is a spicy one, though. Oh, yeah, I like spicy. I'll try it. That sounds good. They're always like trying to give you food and stuff, give you food and drinks and invite you to participate in the fiesta. They like to party. And they have really warm parties, It's a very comfortable party. Like it's kind of an all day thing. Starts in the afternoon and goes into the evening, and then people crash out and eat. They got a couple of meals going on. Of course, this thing barbecue's going. Tequila makes your clothes come off? Or your mom? Yeah, and Candace made a great wife. I gotta say, Candace made a great wife. She didn't cook, but she kept track of the bills and schedules and kept the house at least cleanish, you know. Um, what's my immigration policy? I mean, my first immigration policy is to state that immigration ought not be a issue of utmost importance at the moment. It's a fairly, to me, it's not an issue that has a lot of urgency behind it. I would like to see the U.S. successfully control the borders, which is to say that to the extent that people can pass through easily, it's because we choose. And to the extent that we don't choose, then they can't pass through. In other words, this is one area where Trump's right, basically. The simplest solution on the Mexican border is to build a giant wall. Do I think we should stop people from immigrating? No. Do I think we should have legal immigration policy processes they have to follow? Yes. Do I think we should have some sort of means testing or something like that? Sure. Because remember, nobody has the right to immigrate. Um, so the country who's allowing people to immigrate to it can set terms and should set terms. We don't want immigrants to be a net loss for the country. I think on balance they're a net gain. But our population is growing. The amount of space, land and stuff is starting to diminish somewhat. Not a lot of open spaces really. Uh, it makes sense to not not aggravate the already existent population growth problem. So that's my position on immigration. I'm a lot more pro immigration than Trump, but I also share with Trump a notion that it's ill advised to invite uh, some people to come live in our country. And which people, you might say, is it ill advised to allow to come live in our country? Well, um, people who don't respect rights, people from cultures that don't respect rights, especially from cultures that place their own considerations, subjective considerations of the sacred above the objective free expression rights of others. That's dangerous. When you've got people coming from a culture that fundamentally see women as chattel and don't view Western individual autonomy as a good thing, that's dangerous. So we have to consider that stuff. Did I have a lot of fun with Melinda? No. Did not have fun with her at all. How does one end up in such a bad relationship? It's a combination of being bipolar and being single and abstinent and like never touching anybody really, and including certainly not a woman, except for maybe like a hug once or twice during the whole time, for 4 years or something like that. I've indicated in the past, I was never somebody who was successful with women. And after I got out of college, I didn't feel reproductively viable at all. I didn't understand women. I considered myself, with some degree of accuracy, probably, to be quite physically unattractive. I think I was somewhat more harsh on myself than I needed to be, but I tried to be objective about it, and the beard helps. A full beard helps. When I was younger and my beard was a little more sparse, I was less attractive than I am now. Anyway, I knew I wanted a kid. This girl was willing to sleep with me, basically, and I, being insane about everything, immediately said, well, let's get married. I had this dream before we actually did get married that I was marrying this really awful student from my special ed class named Eileen who would try to gouge people's eyes out. um, Pretty clear dream, but I didn't learn anything from it. I married her anyway. Whatever. I figured, well, I just make sure I've got everything contractually conscribed properly. We got married in the Catholic Church uh, because she was Catholic, and I agreed to the terms for that. And of course, I figured, well, this is good. She'll rely on her to adhere to the terms as well. And no, what she wanted, understandably, was a loving relationship or somebody who liked her or didn't try to correct her awkwardness and or cringe at her and or get upset at her illogic or other things like that. She understandably didn't want that person who was doing that to her. But the problem is she was really damaged. She was my first damaged person, really damaged person. And I didn't get it. I didn't get what damage was. I still don't really get it. It's like I still presume everybody's fine. No, I'm sure. Why would she be? What would be wrong with her? Everyone's happy and good and fine. No, Eric, most people are fucked up to some extent. Even you, Eric, are fucked up to some extent. Kimberly managed to do some damage. Melinda didn't do much damage except on the cheating thing. Now, when she cheated, she destroyed my capacity to trust women to be monogamous. And that stretched well into Candace. But eventually I was like, okay, this is different. I can see it's different. And like with Rachel, I'm not worried about it at all. Not remotely. I just know that Rachel wouldn't do that. How did I find out that she cheated? I came home and what had happened was we had an answering machine, old school answering machine with a tape in it, right? But and once you picked up the phone, the answering machine is supposed to hang up. But if you picked up the phone at just the wrong moment, the answering machine would continue to record as you're talking on the phone. It's supposed to be that it starts, the answering machine goes, "We're not home. Please leave a message." Beep. And they go, "Oh, hey, blah, 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 blah." And then if you pick up, the answering machine is supposed to stop recording. Well, in this case, it didn't stop recording. And I came home to a blinking answering machine message, pushed play, and heard this conversation between Melinda and her college professor at PCC. And it was very clear from the conversation that they were sexually involved with each other. Because, of course, as far as they knew, nobody was hearing this conversation and it wasn't being recorded. And for quite a long time after that, I had a PTSD style trigger. I'd come home and I'd see, because we stayed together after that for quite some time, maybe 9 months or something before we finally said, I can't take this anymore. Because I basically, from that day forward, spent the next 9 months berating and abusing her and calling her names and belittling and shaming and just generally treating her as she deserved to be treated, So that's how I found out. It was fun. The crazy thing, though, the thing to note here is what really matters. Map territory conformity. Because I did not like this woman. I certainly didn't love her. And yet it was absolutely devastating that she cheated on me. Why? Because it fucked up all my map territory links. I had various things in my head about marriage. Married people don't do that sort of thing. That's just in the movies. I had various things about, the plan for my family, that my child certainly wasn't going to have a stepfather, that she was going to have a nuclear family, and I had a bunch of words in my head that represented to me reliable map. Turned out that map was not reliable at all. And the the prime directive failure is the sort of thing that traumatizes you when your basic assumptions get called into question. Because I never distrusted her. I had not a shred of a trust issue. not even not even the most basic, obvious kind of common sense safety and awareness. Like I just blithely assumed that was just never going to happen. People don't cheat on each other when they're married. Come on, that's ridiculous. That's the sort of my map was all fucked up. I had to rewrite the map. Is it 6 in the morning? Did I stay up all night again? Wasn't I supposed to go to sleep? Pretty sure I was. I was half Mexican last week, but fortunately I changed races before Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Mayo is such a gringo co-option of our culture. Yeah, so I see that blinking light on the answer machine. I go into full blast detective mode. I search blah, 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 blah. And in fact, I eventually found out that she had cheated on me with at least one other person, and that she had been lying about the extent of her cheating. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. I kept trying to explain to her, listen, if you think I would like to make this thing work somehow, ridiculously, it was silly of me to think such a thing, but you need to be accountable. I was still harping on the same shit back then. I need to see you as somebody who is, hurling themselves on cacti to demonstrate the scope of their remorse. And she was nowhere near that notion. That marriage therapist basically told me, what are you doing with this person? She's not even remotely good enough for you. She didn't say it in those words, but she kept trying to like go, I remember when we went back after I found out she cheated with the same person, and the therapist was like, well, obviously you can't put any weight in anything she says at all. You shouldn't believe any of her words. I was like, hey, you're trying to make this, your job is to this NI away so that I can continue to make the narratives rather than experience them. No dice. That was a good and intuitive therapist. That relationship therapist. I've had better luck with relationship therapists than I've had with people to talk to, like, therapy therapists. Not that I would ever need that now because I've got internet, which is way better than a therapist. Was she a Scorpio? Who? Melinda? Yes, actually, she was a Scorpio. Yeah. I'm surprised I know that, but the reason I know is because I remember she was the same as Corey. Well, I remember a therapist back in college asking me some questions, me expressing a certain kind of unhealthy wrongness, namely that, look, I've got to be self-sufficient. I need to not need anybody or care about anybody. It's important. I can't be weak. And it's like, where are all these weird ideas coming from? Why are all these shoulds coming out of your mouth? I hadn't really thought about it before. That was useful. What the fuck, Lamau? What the fuck, Lamau? All right, I'm going to wrap this stream up. But before I do, I want to talk to you about saving lives. Okay. Smelling my own face saves a lot of lives. Smell your face saves some lives. Let's all have to smell our face just to go inside of a place. Cover up with a cloth or a thing, like a mask, make you sing. People like my elderly dad can't communicate anyway, bad or good or at all, because he relies on reading their lips now, cuz. I was promised a plague. Where are all the dead bodies? Jeez. I was promised a plague. This has killed hardly anybody's. I was promised a plague. Highly contagious, killing everybody, worth all this bullshit you forced down our throats, you canceled our fun, you've taken our goats, you've stolen our coats, you put us on sofas, you sent us outside and said go get loaves of bread from the supermarket. It's the only place that's open. Go to 7-Eleven then, that's fine, it's kosher. But in reality, I wonder, if it's safe enough to do in the supermarket, why this blunderous attempt to prevent us from going anywhere else? Why can't I shop at the motherfucking Bevmo, yo? I can go to the supermarket, so why can't I go inside the store? Is the virus more likely to attack me in there because there's alcoholic beverages on the shelves everywhere? It makes no fucking sense. Well, William Paquette, let me tell you, this is a very special drop about fellas like you who might be mistakenly believing that the COVID alarmists have something that they're leaving us good. It's not good. It's a bunch of bullshit. That's my point. The quarantine never should have happened. And you know, I'm rapping about it. I'm using my rapping words. I don't know if you've heard of those before. It's a musical art form that's specific to the more urban-minded of us musical artists. Yeah, William Paquette came here with his racket ready to play some tennis. I said, that shit's canceled. Don't you know? COVID's got all up in us. We can't go play no squash neither, nor no racquetball. I pronounced your name correctly. Yeah, points for me and for us all, cuz squeaky, squeaky couch. Squeaky, squeaky couch. If you want your couch to squeak, better make it a little bit weak. On one of the legs around where it's got some bearings or a washer or something. Then you can make it squeak when you wiggle back and forth every week. And rap along to the beat of squeaky, squeaky couch, squeaking week. Squeaking Week is like Shark Week on that channel that does that Shark Week fun house stuff about big fish that eat stuff and how those big fish are buff. My equivalent to Squeaky Couch, much more entertaining, no doubt, and assuredly more impressive too. William Paquette, you're here, and you should know it too. This very important song is for you. It's called lip dancing. Our lips are dancing. Uh-huh. We're a union personality type community. Hey, speak for yourself, Winston's mom. I ain't no union. I ain't no union. I am a boonian. Well, let me just reduce what you say there to how I refuse the argument about school's way is to keep you enslaved and that the media is made to control me and may and bait and say, well, I'll tell you this, I age you last. There's several different arguments all packed into one. Let me attack the one that's best first, son, and that is school is there to keep you enslaved. The basic problem with all of those points is they seem to focus on the motivations of some elite group controlling things from behind the scenes irresponsibly, irrationally, and counterintuitively to human activity as a beast in normal activity ways. Yeah, people don't run shit like that. Power wells flat and they attack its truth, but individuals disagree just like me and you do. Whether elite or poor or in the stew, it don't matter. We can't control all those vectors. It's too complicated and dynamic systems resist that kind of control. With emergent phenomena. Yes, emergent phenomena. Quarantine spitting. Quarantine. I'm on quarantine. Why? Because I'm boring, see? If I weren't so boring, see, then I wouldn't be in quarantine. And I'd get to go have an orange be my lunch today. You can't go inside that orange, Julius. That's where the virus lives. I know there's a suffocation risk for you to put this bag on your head to do it anyway, because otherwise we're all dead. You're saving lives today with your suffocation. Yeah, smell your face, everybody. I want everybody to put on a mask and smell their own face. If you're not tired of smelling your face yet, you're killing people. Did I tune my guitar down? It might not have been tuned to 440, but I believe it's in tune with itself. Relative tune, you see, it's just as well as actual tuning, because I don't got perfect pitch, so it won't ruin shit for me. I think you see that relative pitch is equivalencies is good enough for me, and my face smells of sweat and acne. Ha! My face smells like sweat and acne. And boogers on my stash. And plaque on my teeth. From my ass. Tired of smelling onto my face. My nose needs some fragrance today. I gotta go pick myself a nosegay because I'm tired of smelling my face. Fuck you, COVID alarmist folks and governors who act without pokes and who don't seem to care that they're jokes when they advocate for shit without any impact calculus. Why not calculate the risks? Check the harms, inherency, solvency, significance, and gee, maybe then you'd have an advocacy. That made sense. Instead of your absolute arbitrary crap and pence. I'm tired of your fencing us all in. Justifying it with cherry-picked data and lies. Ignoring that all those lies you promised us would be dies are still walking around. This is the sound of your wrongness right here. You can tell. Squeaky couch. Okay, that's enough. That was fun, though. You know, I like that. That's a fun activity. It's called squeaky couch. Great term. I want everyone to begin using it. Chicken bagging. If you're chicken bagging your partner, this is what's happened. So let's say Zach were to chicken bag me. I'd say, Zach, you're so smart and you've got such sharp taste in clothing. And he'd say, are you saying I'm physically unattractive? That's chicken bagging. And the reason it is chicken bagging is because the term is taken from the other day in the car when I was driving around with Rachel and I was squeezing her leg and I said, if you were a bag of chicken, you'd be nothing but thighs, legs, and breasts. And she said, are you saying I have an ugly face? No. Do you want my bag of chicken to have faces in it? Would if you were a bag of chicken, would that bag of chicken be better for having chicken faces in it than the bag of chicken that lacks chicken faces? No, it would be worse than the bag of chicken that lacks chicken faces. Because who wants chicken? Who wants you go fried chicken? Oh, I'll get a breast. I'll get that. Can I get a face? Whoever says that, they have to peel that little bit of face off of that chicken's head. It's incredibly difficult work. It's going to be one of the dishes at my wedding that's going to go along with the deviled grapes. If you're not familiar with deviled grapes, just like deviled eggs, that's how you make them. You very carefully peel the grape and smoosh around the inside part and then put it back inside the peel. That makes everything more delicious, you see. The thing is, there's really not a lot of meat on a chicken face. I don't know. You've got to eat a whole hen house full of chicken faces to get full. You really do. David Lynch style stream of consciousness. William Paquette, please do not compare me to David Lynch. He is self-indulgent and awful. Me, I'm hilarious. Big difference, buddy. Big difference. Okay? That's a big, big difference. David Lynch. I don't like arty for arty's sake. Now, granted, people might critique me for being that. I'm not arty for arty's sake. I'm just failing. I'm trying to do it better. He's failing on purpose. I'm failing not because I'm just not good enough. Face meat is much tougher than on a stringy. You know, I think maybe the best way, if you let's say you have, let's say, 2 pounds of chicken face that you got from the butcher's. What are you going to do with your 2 pounds of chicken face? Well, what I like to do is use 2 words: crock pot, to slow cook. Slow cook those chicken faces. Because that's right, okay? You do have that very tough, very chewy chicken face meat, very thin. Their cheeks are wafer thin, but still very tough. We're going to moisten that up with a full day slow cook in the crock pot. Call this chicken face crock pot surprise. The surprise is the other ingredients. Got vegetables as well. It's chicken faces. No, you don't. Listen, Mom, this is the thing people don't understand. The beak is not part of the chicken's face. Okay? What else is not part of the chicken's face? The eyeballs. That's not the face. That's the eyeballs. Take the eyeballs out. Give them a beak. You got to be able to look. Basically, you should, when you take a chicken's face off, if you were to have, say, a neoprene chicken head right here, and you were to push the peeled off chicken face onto the neoprene chicken head, it would form like a regular looking chicken again. But obviously, when you have it rolled out like that, it doesn't. It looks like this. You know, it looks more like that. Fun trick. Valentine's Day. Your second grader is going to school.
liven up all the Valentine cards by gluing a raw chicken face on the inside of each of those cards. And because the thing is, the funny thing about chicken faces is you really can't set their facial expressions to make it look like they're exacerbated or irritated or curious or fearful or a lot of different emotions. So, no, Zandy, we're not having chicken face soup, okay? No way, no how. We are having deep fried, grilled, pan ladled chicken face. Okay? You know what we're going to do for you, Zandy? We're going to make the chicken faces little miniature tortillas, and you're going to have it a meal of nothing but amuse bouches. And amuse bouches, like, you know how they have that, some of that rice paper stuff they make spring rolls out of? Yeah, spring rolls with chicken faces. Chicken face spring rolls. Deep fried potato bugs are fine as long as you only serve them to people who refuse to eat the chicken faces. If you're willing to eat chicken face, then if you go, I can't eat chicken face, and you go, okay, well, you want these tater tots? Yeah, that sounds good. You got them. You got your potato bugs masqueraded as tater tots, right? And they go, these are weird tasting tater tots. Tastes a lot like potato bugs. How do you know what potato bugs taste like? I don't. Hey, do you like eating potato bugs? There are no noses on chickens. Okay, Winston's mom, because they have beaks. They do, however, have eyebrows. You have to include the chicken eyebrows, or else you won't be able to make them look angry. Chicken face spring roll with a side of potato bug fries. No, those would be tater tots. Those are called potato bug tots. Tastes like a lot of goopy, sticky bug fluids. Well, that's why you need to cook it well. If you put a little, the thing is, you've got to do deviled potato bugs, okay? You have to do deviled potato bugs. So first, you're going to take all the goo out of the potato bug, and you can stir it up, and you can mix it in with a little bit of like cornstarch or something, and then squirt it back into the potato bug. And that way it'll harden up, you know. You should baste your potato bug on the outside with butter and then bread them, and then baste them with butter again, and then bread them, and then wash them off with water, and then start the process over again. That's the best way to do it. Remember, freshness is paramount. Your potato bug should still be walking around after you've taken all of its insides out, blended them together with cornstarch, and put them back in. It should resume walking. Otherwise, it's not fresh enough. Now, that's not a bad idea either, Zandy. Probably if you were to souse a potato bug in enough tequila, it would just taste like tequila. Do they have Megan Lovato-worthy eyebrows? Because we'll have to watch you around those chickens. Winston's mom, the fact is, there are a few chickens who've got really amazing brows, but they're definitely the exception. Most chicken brows are average to below average. But don't count them out. I mean, I've seen one chicken whose brows rivaled Megan's herself. Oh, yeah, we can get some of those green tomato worms. Okay, now look. Here's what I'm thinking, Zandy. We need a turducken, and Winston's mom, a turducken of bugs. So the tomato bug's probably the biggest. We'll stick the potato bug inside the tomato bug. What goes inside the potato bug? We could put, okay, well, we've got tomato bug and potato bug. What else rhymes with tomato and potato? Toledo bug. Is there a bug from Toledo?
How about gelato? Is there a gelato bug? Those are close to rhymes. Or chrysalis. I love chrysalises. Okay, let's have a caterpillar form a chrysalis in which he traps a potato bug who's in the process of consuming a smaller potato bug. We'll call it a topo bug, like a turducken. We can make it as a third kind of bug. Okay, not a smaller potato bug. The potato bug will be eating a murder hornet. Have you guys heard about the murder hornets? Is everybody up on the murder hornets? Am I the only one who knows? That's right. The United States has been invaded by murder hornets. They're a perfect inclusion in this turducken we've got. We'll put the potato bug. Now we'll stuff the tomato bug inside the potato bug because the tomato bug smushes more. So okay, we get a very large potato bug. We stuff it with the tomato bug. We stuff the tomato bug with a murder hornet. Have you looked up murder hornets? Yeah, they're big ass hornets. You do not want to get stung by one of those fuckers. Let me tell you, those things look scary. Let's talk about this guy who went to go do his job of killing the murder hornet nest, and it said he went to go kill them with carbon dioxide. Okay. No wonder you got stung 4 times. I'll tell you what I used to do with the wasp nests at Laverne. Murder hornets. Pow, 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 pow. Murder hornets. Murdering hornets. Hornet murdering time. Paste with my pasting finger. What? Too many. No, that's not too many. There we go. There's your Google search on murder hornets. Honey pickled murder hornets, caterpillar sauce, wrap it in potato bugs, dental floss. Okay, it's tiempo para mi ir. Oh, sí, señor. Este es el tiempo para las chupacabras y yo a ir a la biblioteca. Sí. Mañana. Ahora la biblioteca con las chupacabras y yo. Lo siento. Sorry, as they say in America. Okay, anyway, that's my. Who are the chupacabras? Why, they're goat-eating devil bats of some sort. You should know about chupacabras, Andy. They're like Mexican boogeymen mixed with big feet, mixed with murder hornets. They're one part murder hornet, one part boogeyman, and one part Bigfoot. Who is the chupacabras? Oh, the chupacabras are the chupacabras who come in with me to the library. They're my friends. There's chupacabra and chupacabri. Chupacabras give themselves alphabetical suffixes to tell themselves apart. They all have the same name: chupacabra, 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 chupacabra B, chupacabra C. Basically starts over in so you might say, you might meet a chupacabra who says, "My name's Chupacabra." So you know that's his number, his serial number, and his rank. He's not going to give you any more information than that. He's resisting your attempts to question him. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye. I love you all, and please don't get into any beds with any chupacabras. Especially if you have goats.